You tell us what vCluster is, Kurt, and then I'll go through the slides.
Oh, okay. vCluster basically is a virtual Kubernetes cluster that runs in host cluster as a stateful set. So basically a pod. Within that pod, you have a dedicated Kubernetes API server from one of the distributions that the vCluster distribution supports. The two big ones are plain vanilla Kubernetes and K3s. After that, there's like the syncer. That's kind of the brains of a vCluster, and that's the core code of the vCluster project itself that syncs certain things from the virtual cluster into the host cluster, like pods and services. The way the architecture is designed, that they have to be synced really to make vClusters work. And then the benefit of that, though, is that you get 100% native performance for the pods and services. But then after that, you get to decide what gets synced or not synced. So you can share that large cluster's platform stack, for example, with a vCluster, because you can sync whatever resources that platform stack interacts with. Like an ingress controller needs an ingress resource. So you then configure that vCluster to sync ingress resources to the host, and you're able to leverage that ingress controller running on the host. Flip that around, say there's CRDs that are installed on the host cluster, and you want to test new versions of that same CRD. You can deploy those to a vCluster. You just don't sync them. You leave, they remain virtual. They can interact with a controller or an operator that you install in that vCluster as well. And you can have multiple versions of the same CRD in the same cluster by using vClusters. So that's just real quick overview.